Help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
You know, one thing they love to sell when it comes to the draft is debate, right? Which prospect is better than this prospect? And in that process, we tend to tear down prospects to build other ones up. What I want to avoid is doing that in the conversation about what the Browns should do, will do it too. Now, the consensus seems to be that the Browns are going to go Travis Hunter at 2. And if Travis Hunter wasn't going to be there, they'd probably go Abdul Carter. That seems to be where we are. Now, that choice for number 2 coming down to those 2 players has inevitably led to sports spaces doing what sports spaces have been trained to do because of how places like ESPN condition fans to think about the sport, which is debate and debase anybody who is not on your side and turn this into a crash out course. But that's not what I want to do. That's not what I try to do here on this channel. So I'm going to talk about why I love both Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter as prospects and why I think both of these guys would be phenomenal additions to the Cleveland Browns. We'll start with Abdul Carter because he's the more unlikely to be a Brown, but I think Abdul Carter is going to have a fantastic NFL career ahead of him. He is a really good edge rushing prospect. Is he as good as blue chips of blue chips like Myles Garrett? Absolutely not, right? Myles Garrett was everything Abdul Carter was in college, plus in a body that was 6'6", 280 pounds, and ran a 4.440, or what Myles run, like a 4.740 or something crazy like that, with like a 10-6 split. Just insane, right? Abdul Carter is not the Myles Garrett variety of edge rusher prospect. He is of a different variety, which is a guy who's just really good at football. At 6'3", 250 pounds, he was as dominant at edge as we've seen somebody be in college football. He's well-rounded. He has history as a off-ball linebacker. Let's look into some of the film of Abdul Carter to remind us why we think this guy is going to be one hell of a player at the next level. Like, there's a concern about Abdul Carter being a good enough run defender. I tend to think that those concerns are not well-founded. Look at how Abdul Carter just uses his hands to win on the line of scrimmage against a tackle, right? Right here. Boom. Inside, sweep, get 74. Look. And this is what I mean when I say people tend to talk a big game about how big a player is, or is he prototypical size, and is this guy small or technically undersized? All those conversations, in my opinion, do not matter if the player has not demonstrated that they actually matter. And when it comes to Abdul Carter, all of this stuff that people try to hold against him, he has demonstrated multiple times that it simply does not matter because he can work around it sufficiently. And this is an example of him working around his physical, quote unquote, limitations sufficiently. 74 is much bigger than him, right? If you listen to people on Twitter who are detractors of Abdul, they will tell you this is something he cannot do. Handle a tackle that's coming right across his chest and then get to his gap and run for it properly. But look how easily he discards 74. Watch his base here for those of you who are worried about the frame of Abdul Carter. Notice how his base does not lose ground when he absorbs this punch. It actually gains ground, right? So he has very strong legs, very strong base. He's quick and physical and violent with his hands. Look at the hands. Violent right there. Now look at that shit, man. Look at that violence he just generated on the top shoulder of this guy. It just decleats him. Boom. It's like Taekwondo. And then also the awareness, right? He's not just see ball, get ball. He's find ball, hunt ball. And he found the ball, hunted the ball. And that's a perfect run fit right there. This is a tremendous football player. Look at how he uses his hands and just abuses 74 again here, right? Again, 74 is much bigger than him. Doesn't matter. Gets to the chest, extends, and then dips and rips. Underneath the pit, boom. And where he's at? He's at the quarterback. This is all over Abdul Carter's tape. You can watch him a million times. You'll see it. Right, this is him on the left side now, right? He deals with a little bit of a hold, still runs around it. Notice too, 68 can't take him off the track, right? His angle never gets pushed wide by this tackle. He's able to scrape that angle super sharp and get to where he wants to get to. Because again, this is not somebody who's undersized. Like, you can make the argument he's not prototypical size. I would agree with you on that. But if you're making the argument that Abdul Carter is undersized, you got to show me evidence of that mattering on tape in the Big Ten, the best conference in college football. It never mattered that he was 6'3", 250 pounds against NFL prospects, guys who have NFL size and strength. Yeah, another one, just Abdul being able to win. He doesn't just win with quickness. I think that's the thing that separates him, right, from a Barkevious Mingo or somebody like that, like a draft buzz. Somebody like Barkevious had one way to win, and that was with athleticism. Look at how Abdul Carter wins here. Again, chest, hand to the chest. Then you see how he catches the hand, the left hand of the tackle. Long arm, catches the wrist, and then moves the wrist up and then puts it in position so he can rip with his other hand, and now he's free. That's not winning with the athleticism. That's winning with skill and timing right here. Boom, boom. And that's pretty impressive for a guy who was in like his 8th game as a pass rusher. This is a really, really good football player. We'll jump to another game after. Oh, goodness. We'll jump to another game after this. But if the Browns end up with this guy on their football team, you should be excited. He's very, very good, right? Another one here. Look at how he wins. He doesn't just rely on his bend. He doesn't just rely on his first step or his athleticism. Punch, hands, catches, rips underneath. See how hard he makes that tackle bend to be able to get a hand on him, how out of position he is. It doesn't matter right now that 74 or 71 outweighs him, because Abdul has him in such a unpowerful position that he can't do anything with him. Again, you want to say somebody's undersized because you went and read a spreadsheet and you think that makes you look smart, cool. But you actually have to apply if that player's size has affected them, right? Like, that's the one thing, even when we talk about quarterbacks, some people get mad when people bring up that Cam Ward is not undersized, but Shedeur Sanders is. But the reason people don't bring up Cam Ward being undersized is because when you watch him play, his size never affects him in a negative way. He's able to get tacklers off of him pretty easily and maneuver his way around these guys. With Shedeur, it's not as simple as that. He goes down a lot easier than Cam Ward, right? He tends to be more affected by up the middle pressure than Cam Ward is. That's why it matters. Just simply looking at the Google, when you Google a player and you Google his height and weight and saying this dude is undersized and calling that analysis is really bad form, you know? Again, we ask a question, is he undersized? The question should be answered by what you see on tape. Here's him going up against Donovan Jackson. Donovan Jackson's big as hell. He's not big as hell, right? But look, Donovan can't move him off the tracks, right? He's trying to drive Abdul. Abdul is sitting on him. And then not only is Abdul sitting on him, he's able to surf to his gap with Donovan Jackson on his other shoulder. Look at that. That tells you that the size stuff might be a bit overblown, right? It's not really a concern. I mean, Donovan Jackson's going to be an NFL starter at either guard or tackle, holds his own, surfs. There's more from this game, right? Again, Abdul, we know he could do this, right? Just completely blows Donovan Jackson out of his depth here. Now, to be fair to Donovan, this is his first game playing tackle, so this is something you expect him to struggle with. But just seeing how fast, and look how fast this dude is. Oh, my God. Yeah, there's no way you're going to get me upset about drafting this guy, right? With him and Travis Hunter, it's all over their tape. There's no way you're going to get me upset about getting this guy on your football team or getting Travis Hunter on your football team. There's no shot. Look at this. That's a ghost move right here, right? Feels Donovan Jackson leaning on him and just dips and then runs with his knees smacking his chest. Another one here where he gets pretty much held by Donovan Jackson, fights through it, and that doesn't look like an undersized edge to me. Undersized edge would have been walled off. I saw Mike Green get walled off by this kind of stuff, right? There's a clear gap between every other edge in this class and this dude. Clear gap. Clear gap. Look at this shit, man. There's one edge in this class that has a rep like this. That's insane. And he's doing it against Ohio State. He's doing it against Oregon. This is what Abdul Carter does, and he does it at a high level. He's very good. I would be ecstatic if the Browns drafted him, but I also would be ecstatic if the Browns drafted Travis Hunter as well. We went over this earlier this week. Travis Hunter can track the ball as good as anybody, right? He gets the ball here. Look at the yards at the catch. Look at the body control here, right? To avoid this. This is mesh. Thrown a little late. Linebacker's there to hit him. He puts his foot in the ground, cuts around him, and then turns the corner. Another play here where he just tracks a pretty bad deep ball right in between three defenders and comes down with it. I mean, that's insane. Remember, he didn't play this position full time. Got underneath that ball. Nobody sees the ball, finds the ball, catches the ball, quite like Travis Hunter in this draft class. But it's not just that stuff that makes me like Travis Hunter, right? The flashy stuff, the body contortion stuff, right? It is also the blocking of Travis. Look at how well he blocks here, right? Gets in front of 8, pushes 8 around, gets around him, puts him in the dirt. Love that, right? Another one where he has to kind of block for Shedeur. He boxes his man out, doesn't draw a penalty, lets Shedeur get the first down. Another situation here where he has to kind of block for 4 here on this under. Gets in front of him, stays in front of him, fights it. He's a good blocker. It's not just that he's doing the fun stuff well and the deep balls well and everything else. It's that the small stuff, I think he's shown a proclivity and an interest in. And this is a player who is interested in not just being good at both sides of the ball, but legitimately being great. And if you have a player who can make plays for you on both sides of the football, which, look, we just saw Travis make a bunch of plays on one side of the ball. Let's pull up Travis making a bunch of plays on the other side of the ball. Can make plays on the other side of the ball as well. We've seen this a ton at Colorado, where he's able to get up there, be disruptive, find soft spots, really good at cover 2. All of this stuff Travis Hunter excels at. But again, much like on the offensive side of the ball, you want to see on the defensive side of the ball, hey, how does this dude handle dirty work, right? Can he do some of the finer detail stuff or the dirty work stuff? Here's Travis making an excellent tackle in the open field, right? This is stuff you expect a two-way player like him to struggle with. This is Travis in the box here, right? sees his man coming across this formation, and not only does he identifies it, he beats his man to the ball. Bam! Right? That's the kind of shit that you love to see. This is somebody who is in tune to what their film study had to be on the offensive side of the ball and understood the tendencies of the offense that he was going on against in the defensive side of the ball. He put all them hours to work, right? This is somebody who you can see the hours of work that he puts in. Again, another good job run fitting here with Travis. Another good job just getting down and then making a solid tackle here. And then this is one where he makes a game-winning play, right? To win this game versus Baylor, he's the only guy standing in the way. This is a mismatch. This is a running back going up against a two-way player that people tell me is too small. But this is just like the Abdul Carter conversation, right? Where people will look at a spreadsheet and say, oh, he's too small. 183-pound defensive back, 183-pound wide receiver. No way he's too small. Right? We've heard it. We know what it is. But this is, again, what I talk about, where it's like, does the lack of size show itself on film? Do you watch the tape and go, damn, this dude's not powerful. Damn, this dude's a little weak. Damn, he keep getting beat by certain guys, right? Is he incapable of adding the extra weight, which I think he is if it becomes a problem for him, right? But off his base ability, what he's good at, what he's able to have success with, it doesn't look like it's affected by his weight. So that means that at the very worst, he's going to have to gain weight in the NFL, but he'll be fine, right? And this is what I mean. 12 is the only thing standing in the way of this running back and this game extending. There's only 12 in the way. This is a complete mismatch. But he doesn't shy away. He doesn't say, okay, we'll just get the score on the other side. He says, no, I'm going to make a play here. Knocks out this football. Big-time players make big-time plays. I wish we could have saw Travis Hunter play in more big games because unlike Shedeur, Travis has a good track record in these big games against the better opponents that he plays against. Unfortunately, at Colorado, being in the Big 12, being a part of that transition from the Pac-12, and then him being injured for most of his time in the Pac-12, we did not get to see Travis in a lot of big games. I think we would have loved what we saw from Travis in big games, but he's going to be in the NFL. This dude's on your team. You trust him in a big game situation. So basically, if you're the Browns, you end up with a choice at 2 that's, hey, let's get a guy who is easily the best edge rusher in this class. There's no comparison. There's not even close. He's one with a dot. In my opinion, I don't think anybody's close to him. In Abdul Carter, somebody who's going to be a force to reckon with Myles Garrett on the opposite side of him. Can't really lose there. And you can draft Abdul Carter, who is potentially a two-way player at the NFL level, who can make plays on both sides of the ball and is willing to do the dirty work on both sides of the ball. And his success could be so transformational that it becomes instrumental to your team's culture. It's a hell of a choice at 2. It's a hell of a choice at 2. Look, there are plenty of times where the Browns get a pick, or early pick in the draft, and we got to pick between what's the South Park meme, a douche and a turd sandwich, right? Like that's usually, sometimes we end up in that situation. The Barkevius Mingo year in 2013 was a douche and a turd sandwich situation, but this is not that. You have 2 excellent choices. You could take Abdul. You could take Travis. They're both excellent players. And if one of them ends up in brown and orange, I find that is an absolute win for the Cleveland Browns. Y'all let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.